Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Tea Time with Mother and Crone. Again, we have a new mother sitting in with us. We are so happy to welcome back Reverend Corey with us today, and we have lots of good things going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to let her take off, and she's going to tell us what she has in her cup of tea.
Well, today, hello everybody, and thank you for that kind introduction, Pam. Today I have got hibiscus and chamomile, and I've got a little bit of lemon. We're going to be talking about Lisa today. And so I thought that this would be very savory because it is wonderful with honey. And I actually brought the leaves. I have them right here. These are my chamomile leaves. And then these are my hibiscus leaves. And I put them in a tea strainer. And chamomile, of course, gives you a relaxation. It helps with energy. It's actually corresponded with the sun. And then hibiscus is actually a very passionate blend that can help with prophetic dreams. And it also helps with as an aphrodisiac. You can help with passion and love. So, ooh. Yes, those are great
like
correspondences.
Give me some hibiscus.
Those are great correspondences to have in your cup for midsummer, a midsummer night's prophetic dream.
Then we'll go down like Shakespeare.
That's right.
I love the teas. Chamomile tends to be one of my go-tos, especially if I'm not feeling well, because it relaxes me. So it's not so much the sleep I need. It's when you're sick, you just want to relax. And yes, that's what I use that for. I'm big on pomegranate. The real pomegranate, I like pomegranates. But I have the tea tonight. I have the pomegranate tea.
Yum. That sounds great, Pam.
It is. It's got that little bit of bitter, like that little bit of sour, but if you put the honey in it, you get that sweet sour going on. So it's really good. And it's great it's autoimmune. Everybody knows it's great for your immunity. It does detoxing. It does a million things. So it's just one of those teas that you can drink. Now I have it in a white tea, white tea leaves, and that does make a difference. When you make your teas, if you have a very soft flavor that you're mixing, like chamomile's kind of soft. Yes, so that goes good with like a green tea or a white tea. It's terrible with a black tea leaf because the black tea is so strong that the chamomile, it's overshadowed by it.
It would override it, yeah.
So that's another thing to know if you're doing your own like you do and mix them, what actual types of tea leaves to mix with the different herbs so that you can get what you're actually going for. It's really great to have herbal teas, but if you don't drink them because you don't like them, they don't do you any good at all. And that shelf gets healthier every day.
Yeah.
So I remind people, make the tea that you like to drink.
That's
because
right.
Otherwise you're not going to drink the stupid stuff. And the whole idea is to, intake it and make yourself healthy.
That's right. Because there's so many things that it can do for your system. And of course, honey blended in with it as a substitute for sugar helps with the immune system. It helps with so many things. It's an antibiotic, a natural antibiotic. And I'm not a doctor or a nurse, but I'm just saying I know that from just researching all of the, honey. I've been drinking honey and taking in honey since I was a child.
And it's really great if you have allergies. Allergy season, I know, is starting all over the country. A little bit of honey in your tea or even in your coffee, the honey is actually soothes the throat. Now, usually when you get allergies, you have that postnasal drip, you have the coughing, the sneezing. I'm a little nasal. My allergies are kicking up. So the honey, regardless of how you take it, helps all of that.
Yes.
So the smart thing to do this time of year is even make a hot tea and let it get cold after you stir the honey in.
Let it steep.
Stir it in hot, then let it cool, and you have an iced tea. And you're still getting all the benefits of the honey.
Absolutely.
So if you can use honey in a couple different ways, it really does help with the allergies. It helps your throat because it coats your throat. A teaspoon of honey sucked off a spoon before you go to bed will coat your throat at night and will help with your postnasal drip. Which,
I've done that before, where I've kept honey in the refrigerator where it gets cold, and then I'll take a little bit of a tablespoon, and then take a little bit before bed like that with it cold like that, and it's actually quite delicious.
it really is, but it's coating the whole throat system.
Throat, yes.
So if you got that postnasal drip or that awful hacking cough, oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
the worst with your allergies. You can
Mm-hmm.
do that. And of course, you'll be taking your antihistamines and stuff like that will dry
Yes.
you out, where the honey will actually soothe the dried out throat.
Right.
If you're on antihistamines, just a little tip, you might want to start using some kind of lip moisturizer or lip balm.
Yes.
Especially as you get older, you tend to dry out anyway. And when your allergy season hits and you're popping those antihistamines and decongestants, it will dry out your face, your lips. Um, Mine get dry and I sit there and pick them, which is the worst thing you can do.
Mine get dry too, and I do have to quite. I mean, I naturally have to have in Tennessee, in this area. It's so humid, and there's so much humidity in the air. But not only that, there's just so much pollen, and so that pollen count goes up. And I stay on antihistamines, whether it's for nighttime or daytime. And yeah, I get dry, and then my lips get dry. So there are a lot of really good balms. Actually, beeswax is a good thing to use as a natural lip balm.
And
So,
if you're taking the honey anyway, it will
right.
help coat and give you all of that back. So, and the beeswax on your lips, you swallow that too. You
Hmm.
ingest that, and that even helps even more. So, Burt's
Absolutely.
Bees, I think, has probably one of the better ones out on the market.
They do.
And it's not, the flavor isn't bad, and it goes on nicely because you can get some of those where, yeah, just like your tea, if you don't like the taste of it, you're not going to use it.
Right.
And you can get some of them that are really, yeah, right. You're going to put that in your mouth, and during the day you do lick it off. It comes off when you drink, when you speak. So every time you lick your lips, you're taking it in. So you want to make sure whatever you're putting on your lips,
Yes.
you're okay with having that in your mouth.
Oh, yep. Absolutely.
People don't get that,
No, they don't.
like,
They
oh,
don't. But I mean, we do so many things throughout the day. And I mean, of course, when I worked in cosmetics, I used to tell people, do you have any kind of habits? Because they would come in and say, why is my lipstick not staying on? Why is my lip gloss not staying on? And I would be like, what do you do throughout the day? And so you have to kind of pay attention to that. Keep something in your purse or keep something in your pocket. So that way you can touch up and keep your lips moisturized, because you don't have any sebaceous glands in your lips. So therefore they're going to get dry.
And I will tell you, the lipstick like I'm wearing that doesn't come off is probably the worst thing you can put on your lips.
Oh, but it stays on you though.
Stays on
That's
all
what
day.
we
I love
want.
it.
We want something to stay on all day.
To take mine off, I actually, believe it or not, use coconut oil. I buy
And that's another, yes.
coconut oil by the gallon, and I use that to literally take all my makeup off with, and then I'll use a facial cleaning system on me, so
Yeah.
it kind of helps. But guys, don't buy all this and get all this, and I love these people go through the health food stores and they buy all this healthy stuff, and then it sits on their shelf
And that just sits there.
because they don't
Yeah.
like the taste, they don't like to do it, and it's like,
It's a big regimen that's got to, and then they say it takes about 21 days to form a new habit. So,
yes,
you get those things home from the health food store, you've got to make sure that you're going to commit to that. And so
21
ask
days
yourself that before you spend the money.
before you do it. And I always tell people, never make a big change. Make it a very small,
Yeah.
small change, because you'll stick with that. If it's something little that
Absolutely.
takes 30 seconds, you'll do it. If it takes 2 minutes, you may not. And I'll be honest, I'm that way. So if I try to use a makeup remover to get this stuff off, it takes forever. I have it on in the
Yeah.
morning when I get up. So I found that the coconut oil,
We'll get it off.
and it's
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
And as you get older, you get that wonderful little stuff that goes on around your lips, and the
Yes.
spider colors come out. Yeah. And that coconut oil is a natural moisturizer. It's really great stuff. So it's actually, when you're taking your makeup off, you're actually doing a good thing to your face, your lips, especially. You're just leaving that oil on.
And it's
And
great for your skin too. I
oh
mean, you can
yeah,
use it as, I mean, if you really want, if like if you've got dry legs, let's say from shaving or something like that, you could use it to after bath or shower as a regular, and maybe
yeah.
infuse it with an essential oil. That would be wonderful.
And I use it almost every day because I wear lipstick a lot. So when I take it off, that's what I use.
Yeah,
So, when you think about it, I'm not going to go buy a makeup remover if I can buy the coconut oil, which I cook with, I make my perfumes with,
yeah.
I cut everything with it. So, it's one of those all purpose things. So I just have it sitting in the kitchen and I just go in, wet a paper towel, go wipe my lips off, wipe my makeup off. I'm good to go.
There you go.
And people ask me, what's my makeup regime? Because my face, I got good genes. Okay. I was fortunate. Both my parents looked very old before they died. They aged horribly. For some reason, I got the good side of both genes because I haven't really aged and I have kept.
You don't have a wrinkle on your face, and I'm
That's
not
not
blowing
what
smoke
it
up your
says.
tail either.
People meet me in real life and they go, "You can't be this old." And I'm like, "Well, yeah,
Isn't
I
that
am."
fun?
And it's stupid little things like using the coconut oil, like just silly
Hmm.
little things. If you're going to buy a makeup remover, buy something that's going to work and
Absolutely.
make your face look good. You know,
Absolutely.
so it's like the little things that I learned through the years. I did the Mary Kay thing for 10 years and
Hmm.
I had all the regimens. And my worst part was I was so busy. I would come home and it was whatever could get the makeup off the quickest. You don't, I mean, even if you make it a habit, there are nights when you don't do it. You go to bed with your makeup on. We've all done it. Um, and I just was like, I'm really going to ruin myself if I keep this up. So I started taking the little things that I knew I could do,
Yes.
that I knew I would stick with, and I stuck with them. So, and that's what I
Things,
tell everybody, little steps. Because
baby steps, because you can't jump into a pool in the deep end if you don't know how to swim. You've got to learn a little bit as you go.
and the coconut oil is really cheap. I buy it at Walmart
It is.
in the cooking section,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I make perfume out of. I cut all my essential oils with it.
Yes.
So I'm
Yeah.
buying it anyway. So, and I started using it on my rough spots, the elbows, and
Yes.
I have never had to shave my heels in my entire life because I got into a habit when I was very young of putting hand lotion on my feet every night
Heels.
before I go to bed.
Yes.
I
Do you
take
put
that two
socks on
seconds
with
to go.
that? Do you put socks on with those? Do
Nope.
you cover them with? No, you just put it
I
on normal.
just, and I've never, ever had rough heels.
Wow.
People just like, oh man, your feet look so good. How? And it's like every night I got into a habit of just throwing some, and it didn't matter whatever I have sitting on my nightstand. So it's not like I'm buying, $400. I would never do that, but it's whatever I have on my nightstand. I squirt it in my hand, rub it in my
Hmm.
hands, hit both my feet with it, and I go to bed.
And then you go to bed and you stay in that habit. And, and then something else. Speaking of feet, I worked for many, many years on my feet in retail, and I have always worn comfortable shoes because I mean, and that's the thing with some of us that when you wear high heels or anything with you got to make sure you keep your feet comfortable because you don't want to mess them up later down the road. So
I see so many women my age whose feet look hideous, that are cracked and
bunions and
bleeding, and it's like,
yeah,
oh my God, how did they get like that? They get like that because you don't remember them.
yeah.
And what started me on it was when I was younger, I started painting my toenails.
Hmm.
And once a week, I got in the habit of changing them or doing them, because I did my nails and
Giving
my
yourself a
toenails.
pedicure. Yeah,
Every Sunday night, that was my thing. That was
that
my
was your
wind
ritual.
down from the weekend. I do my fingernails and my toenails, and I found that my toes were drying out because of all the nail
The
polish
polish.
remover,
Oh, from the acetone in the remover.
the
Oh yeah.
acetone in the remover. So I started having to coat them at night after they were done. I would put lotion on them. Well,
Yeah.
you just don't do your toes; you do the whole foot. And
Right.
I have never had cracked heels or anything. And I see women a lot younger than me with bleeding
Some,
heels and stuff. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, girl, that's gotta hurt.
yeah.
Little silly things that you do like that really do make a difference as you get older. And that was one of the things I never, like, my family isn't long lived. My parents died in their 40s. So I'm like
Oh, wow.
ancient age for my family. And the little silly things like the coconut oil and the stuff on my feet.
Uh-huh.
Um, I work in paper. I'm an accountant. I touch paper all day long.
And
Nothing
that
will
dries
dry
you
your
out.
hands out quicker
Yeah.
than paper. And I've always kept uh, a light, like a Lubriderm, a very
Mm-hmm.
thin, because it dries quicker, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't get it on your paper.
Mm-hmm.
So you put a little bit on, and then you wait for a second for it to dry. And those kinds, if it's thin, it usually doesn't coat your hands like the heavy stuff does,
Right.
and you don't leave track. Well, I call them track marks. The
Things
fingerprints
on the
all
paper.
over.
Yeah, I was just thinking that would be greasy on the paper.
Mm-hmm. And if you use a very thin, very light, like a Lubriderm, you just put enough on, and you do it like 2 or 3 times a day. Your hands are amazing. They look like, my hands don't even tell my age.
No, they
They
don't.
don't
I
look bad
mean,
at all. And I was like, wow, those idiot little things I learned to do way back in the day.
those little bitty things, the little teeny tiny things that you do every day
And
make a
it's
big difference.
amazing. My daughter, the same way. She must have
Yeah.
picked it up watching mommy,
Right. Right.
and her face she doesn't have a wrinkle on her face at all, and she's 50. I'm like, oh my gosh, your face looks fantastic. There's
Mm-hmm.
no wrinkles. It's firm and it looks good. And she's like, well, yeah, I did the same thing you do. And I'm like,
I
wow.
just copied my mom.
And it works. So, and we've all worn glasses. So, we do your nose has to be
Yeah.
very well taken care of.
Right. Because otherwise you'd have those little marks.
Yep, you have those little marks, and actually, the rubbing up and down causes pimples and aggravation on your nose. So, it's just taking care of the little things. And I laugh because I don't have a quote unquote beauty regimen, but I do, because I didn't realize that is actually a beauty regimen. It's just the quick little stuff that I do. The 2 minute, makeup's off. 2 minute, my feet are done. I'm in bed. It's like, it's done. And it takes a whole 3 minutes. So make the little changes
Wonderful.
now while you're younger, so that they kick in.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's amazing. And while we're talking about such wonderful things with spring coming up, and summer is literally around the corner. I can't believe we're already in June. I was like, oh my God, half the year is gone.
I know. I was thinking you got to write six. The 6th month of this year is already here, and I'm just thinking. I feel like it was just January. I feel like 2020 just stood still almost because
and you're going like, oh my God, we're already in June.
We're already in June of 2021. Hopefully, the pandemic is getting out of it. I don't know if that's a collective gaslight, though. I'm still trying to figure that out, but
as more and more get vaccinated and more are taking precautions, even the regular flu, they had it on the news that the regular flu, there are so many deaths every year from the normal flu. And it's usually, to be honest, it's the older Americans, and it's the babies.
Yes.
Because the immune system is shot in both. Babies don't really have an immune system, and as we get older, our immune system just starts
to go down.
And there's nothing you can do. They had less deaths from the regular flu this year, and they believe, and they haven't done the work yet, so we won't find this out probably till next year, but they believe it's because everybody was masked up and avoiding crowds and avoiding the situations we normally put ourselves into when we get the flu.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's absolutely amazing. Now, I have an autoimmune issue. I cannot get the shot because I actually go into anaphylactic shock, which they have no sense of humor about. I thought it was hysterical when I woke up. Hey, I have a weird sense of humor.
I got my vaccination. I had my second round. It was, I think, on May. It was the middle of May, May the 13th or 14th. And I'm glad that I got it. I felt a little down for the first weekend after that, but I didn't have any side effects really that were that bad. But now, if it's not for everyone.
No, it's not. Like, I can't get vaccinated at all, but by everybody around me getting vaccinated,
that
helps me, because then there's less likeliness I will get sick.
Exactly.
So, I get vaccinations. Trust me, if I could go, I would have been the first one in line. I'd have knocked down the rest of the old ladies to get my shot. But my doctor's going, well, it's like this, honey. At your age, the anaphylaxis can kill you. The epinephrine in your EpiPen can kill you. And then you're probably going to die from flu anyway. So I'm like, thanks. That's just peachy.
Promising.
So he was upfront and honest with me. So he's like, you need to do this, and it was build up your immune system. Well, I have an autoimmune disease. So that's a normal thing that I do every day. It's echinacea, it's antioxidants, it's a whole holistic thing that I do. It's mostly herbs, and he's behind me on that one. He's an OD, not an MD. So, we agree on that. He knows I'm an herbalist, so he backs off when I say, well, this is what I'm going to do. But it's also, I think with this, we've all been taking better care of ourselves.
I agree. I think that we've had those opportunities to have self-care, and that, we've had a little bit more time,
Yeah, because things got canceled. So.
Right. So, what else? I mean, now it wasn't that way for everybody. This has been a terrible situation. But there has been opportunities for people to take better care of themselves and to be on point with what they need to do when they
actually pay attention.
Right.
Because now every time you sneezed, is that COVID or not?
Exactly.
And I know the scare, because trust me, we had the scare 3 times in our office. I managed not to miss a day of work through the whole. My company ships food. I called our state headquarters to find out if we could stay open during COVID. And they're like, well, what do you do? And I told them, they said, you can't close. You're part of the supply chain. We cannot have you closed.
You were an essential worker.
We are essential because we ship food. And he was like, you can't close. So I told my boss, I'm like, they're telling us we can't close. And he's like, are you going to be able to come to work? I mean, that was the first question.
Right.
And I was like, well, I have to. I'm the accountant. I have to be there. Right. I have to write the checks. I have to make sure, people get paid, and everything that happens. And he was like, the first sign of anybody sneezing at work, I was the first one, with the Lysol. Come here.
Yeah.
Because I knew if I got sick, I don't have a backup. It's only me right now.
Right.
And he was like, you can't be ill. You can't, because I don't have anybody. Everybody else has a backup, and I'm the backup for 3 other people. So he's like, you can't get sick.
Yeah.
So I have been extremely fortunate that, doing the echinacea, doing the little things, echinacea tea. I'm a coffee drinker in the morning. I will tell you that. Do not approach me until my cup is empty.
Until you had that first cup. That first cup.
It's like, come on. You want to die? Walk in my office.
We're going to do chamomile tea at night, and we're going to do coffee in the morning.
We do coffee first thing, but around lunchtime, I have been very good at making some kind of tea with echinacea or something with echinacea in it to every day. So it's that little bit every day. And if you keep it at work in your desk, you'll look in there, because you'll think about you want something, and then you look at, I got the tea. I'll just make a cup of hot water and throw tea in it.
Right.
And by just default, you're helping yourself.
Exactly.
So that's my big thing for people. And we have a holiday coming up this month, which is like, oh my gosh, another holiday already. We're not done. I just feel like that we just did Yule.
I
So,
know. And now we're on the other end of the wheel of the year. We're doing, but then of course the Southern Hemisphere is in Yule. So that's what we
but
are.
it's like bizarre because I'm sitting here going, didn't we
Uh,
just do Yule last week?
no, Yule was. It seems like last week. I mean,
Seems
I
like it.
remember. I barely remember Imbolc. I remember Ostara vaguely. Beltane just happened a few weeks ago, and here we are about to celebrate Letha.
You're like,
So
what the
it's
hell?
like, wow.
So
Um,
now we're going into one of our summer holidays.
yes, which is going to be part of our discussion tonight. Just we were going to just chitty chat about Letha correspondences and some of the things that you can do to celebrate the summer solstice or Letha, however you want to call it. But it is about life and rebirth and transformation, and of course there's the tale of the oak and the holly king, and it's the holly king's time to take over, and the oak king gives it off to the holly king. So if anybody, I don't know if anybody would understand it. Most people in that identify as pagan would understand that whole story. But it's basically as the wheel of the year turns, this is one of the polar ends of the spectrum. You've got Yule and then you have Letha, and it's the solstice season. And so therefore you're going to have a trade-off with what is going to happen. The days are going to get shorter. And in the summer hemisphere, some southern hemisphere, excuse me, the days are going to get longer because the earth is tilting and time is turning and ticking away. And it just goes so fast. And before we know it, it'll be Yule again up here in the northern hemisphere.
It feels like it's going to be next week, but
Right.
it is important. A lot of people don't understand it. The summer solstice is a big deal. Longest day of the year, shortest night.
It is.
And it's worth celebrating. It is very important. It was very important to the ancients because now they're preparing, believe it or not, even though we feel like it's still springtime, you're starting to look at the winter months now because you got to make sure your crops are coming in well, that you have enough to put back for the winter season.
Right.
So we're an agricultural spiritual path, and that's where we're based. So you've got to start looking at it as a farmer. And this time of year, you're checking who's birthing, who isn't. Most of them in our neck of the woods have birthed their cows, horses, and a lot of the piglets are birthed. So now you're looking at fattening them up because you're going to look at slaughtering right before winter.
Right.
So you have something to eat over the winter holidays. And so it's kind of very important. It's the longest day of the year. And Stonehenge, which is the lovely painting that you did. Yeah,
I did.
Boy, she's very talented.
Thank you.
We always do this. Melinda and I, she leans one way, I lean the other because we have them in different corners of our house. So now she's got, like, look at this. I have this. She's got the whole Stonehenge behind her.
If not everybody's going to have the opportunity to go and run around at Stonehenge, but you know, I think that having a bonfire at night on the longest night of the year, that's one of the big things. It's going to do a couple things. You can celebrate. It might be a little hot, but here's the good thing. It's going to keep the mosquitoes away.
Yes.
So if you're in an area that has a lot of mosquitoes, build yourself a bonfire. Just make sure that you're up in compliance with your fire ordinances wherever you're at. If you live out in the country, though, you can do almost whatever you want to do.
And if you want to throw some herbs in there to keep the critters down, you've got bay leaf, you've got sage, you've got all kinds of things you can throw in there. Not only does it smell so awesome, but it also helps keep the bug population down. So the bonfires are awesome this time of year. Again, watch your regulations. We're very dry here in Florida right now. We had a gathering at our house the other weekend, and we were in, and where they're saying be very careful, everything's really dry. And a smart thing to do, if that's the case, wet down around the area before you start your bonfire.
Turn on your sprinkler in your yard.
Get it down a little bit, and then always keep the water. We have pails of water all around just in case I have to, shush some over on there. But the bonfires, there is nothing cooler to me than sitting around a bonfire. I
know.
I have a fire pit out in my backyard. In fact, when we got the house, the first thing I bought was a fire pit. My roommate's like, "What are you doing?" A fire pit.
Making a fire pit.
Got to have a fire pit. So I got my fire pit. That was my main goal. But it's really nice to sit out there in the evening and, just have a little bit of a bonfire going in the fire pit, just to sit there, and people gravitate towards it. It's like you start it, like mine's in the other end of the yard, and I start it, and it's like everybody kind of like ended up over there.
Everybody gathers around. And what's so wonderful about a bonfire, everybody tends to get a little bit more, it kind of breaks the veil almost, in my opinion. Everybody gets a little bit more loosened up and more casual and able, and they're not feeling so restricted with what they're trying to say, and not so inhibited. And, people start telling stories, and it's just, and it doesn't have to be like scary stories. I'm just talking about people open up, and there's something about that ambiance of being able to feel that you can share with people.
There is just something about the fire. I think it takes us back to our ancient times. I really do. I mean, people, you gravitate, you see a campfire and you gravitate, and the smell for me is almost an aphrodisiac. I'm telling you, I love the smell of a fire, a wood fire. I mean,
a wood fire smells very good.
It just, you smell it and it's like you're there. I did a lot of camping with Boy Scouts, so our campfires were, once we got the boys bedded down, the adults sat out there, and you have your cup of coffee and you're talking, and it was that wind down time. I think it's the greatest thing in the world. I really do. And the fact that, you can buy the fire pits now that you can just put in your backyard, and you have a fireplace or, a fire area that you can actually sit down and enjoy. And it's just one of those things. You're right. It brings people together. It does. It attracts them. It's almost like we're little mosquitoes or something. We go towards the flame. But it's calming. And this time of year with Litha, I've always thought campfires are really cool. You can't always get to one.
No.
If you live in an apartment or something like that, many times you're restricted. But if you can get out to a campfire for Litha, that is the best.
Go for it. Yes, absolutely.
And it's even better if someone brings a drum or a guitar.
Oh, yeah. And then that's when it really gets fun.
When it gets really good. And that was a call out to John Anastasio. Hello, John.
Hello, John.
I plug everybody in the show.
That's right. He's a great musician.
He is. He's a folk singer with a folk guitar. And I'm telling you, shades of Peter, Paul, and Mary. I'd love to hear him. And he does open mic a lot in Jacksonville. And sometimes most people record him and it gets on our websites and I'm able to listen to him. But to sit out with someone playing silly old campfire songs, or someone who starts, now it's really bad when they bring a drum, because you know what happens with pagans and you have a drum circle.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody sits still. Nobody.
And I love a drum circle. It's you get completely lost into
you really do. And
into the rhythm.
We talk about our holidays, and I don't think people really get it. You have to research them a little bit sometimes to understand them. I grew up on a farm, so I understand the agricultural right behind it. So I know what we're talking about.
Yes.
But to take your kids, have them make their own little drums, coffee can.
Yeah,
Best drum you can ever make. Or if anybody buys the Quaker Oats in the cardboard.
In the big carton.
Yeah, I don't think they even.
Round.
Yeah, the big round ones. Just that is a drum, and you take that out with your kids, and you're celebrating Litha.
There you go.
And that is like, the kids love that kind of stuff. I mean, let them make little drums or little shakers, and you just go out and sit around, a fire pit and just sing songs or be silly and dance around the fire pit. I mean, it's a celebration of who we are, but it's also a celebration of the holiday we're having. So it's not that special holiday where you have to buy something or do something. It's more of a family holiday to me.
You're getting that first harvest of your spring crops, which is usually squash and onions and cucumbers and melons. And I mean, those are refreshing things to cook with this time of year.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, there's nothing better than a cold watermelon and a glass of mead. That would be just the perfect combination. And that's the thing. And then you've got other crops that are going to be, and then green beans. There's things that, I mean, some of those things don't come until later in July. But there's early crops. You've got potatoes. Potatoes we put out in February and March. I mean,
June is the strawberry moon.
Yes, strawberries.
Strawberries have a season about this long.
Yeah,
it's like the Bing cherries. It lasts
about a week
weeks?
And a half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's it. We have a mulberry tree outside, and we actually picked some. We have to be careful because the birds get into them, but we picked some of those, and that was about a month ago. And I just put a little bit of sugar on them and let them sit. And that's another really nice dish. If you've got, raspberries or blackberries, you can find them. It's a great time to go foraging.
Have you ever tried milk with your mulberries?
Oh, I bet it's good. No,
it's awesome. When we were kids, we used to pick the mulberries and the blackberries and all the berries and put them all together. My aunt would always make a cobbler, and whatever was left over at night, we would sprinkle a little sugar and pour a little milk on it and have it almost like an ice cream kind of thing. Oh my gosh, it was so good. It was disgusting.
It was good.
So, that's the kind of thing that you can do with the kids now. I mean, you can go berry picking. A lot of places have pick your own berries.
Yes, they do.
And if you're lucky enough to live in an area where you can actually just go and pick them, growing up in the mountains, the berries are always on the sides. So it was no big deal for us to go out and pick enough to make my aunt would make these cobblers. Oh my gosh, they were to die for. And then, like I said, the little bit of berries that were left over, she would make 3 little dishes and a little sugar on them and pour a little milk in all of them and hand them to us, after we went out and spent hours picking the berries. But it was kind of a cool thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
But that's another thing. I mean, there's so many things that you don't have to do anything special for Litha. Just celebrate the little parts of it.
It's just, you can have some, I mean, now that COVID is sort of coming out, people can gather in small groups. And I was going to say, you can have you could have a luncheon, you could have a nice weekend dinner. Yes. A cookout. There's just so many things. And I like the warm. I'm not necessarily a summer person myself. I really prefer kind of cooler weather, but I do like just the refreshing taste of, like I said, like a nice cold watermelon out of the ice box after I've been outside in the garden, because it gets extremely hot and humid, and it's wonderful. But no, I'm sitting here reading about food and drink. There's mead and ale, summer fruits and vegetables, which we talked about, honey cakes. That is something else that you can make. And then talking about citrus fruit, honey, and then also summer squash. I love zucchini and just making squash medley. There's so many things that you can do with those, and cutting some onions up in there and sauteing them in a little bit of olive oil, or you can make a casserole. There's different recipes out there for that. And
well, if you started with the April seed moon and you planted your seeds in April, you're starting to look at some fruit right now.
Oh, absolutely.
So that was the kind of thing I've always, with my groups, especially when I do the kids groups, I really like them to plant something, because there's nothing more, I can't say educational, but there's nothing more inspiring than to start with that seed and see that seed actually grow and grow into something, and you harvest what it's grown, and you're like.
And you got it from that one seed.
And the kids, I mean, I always had a garden in my yard because I grew up on a farm, so I had to plant, tomatoes and peppers and
okra.
I planted all. My backyard was like a little mini farm, and it was the coolest thing for my kids was like, if I was going to do stewed tomatoes, I'd send them out to grab a couple of plums. Plum tomatoes is what I cook my students, because the beefsteak's what we used for eating, like just making a mayonnaise and tomato sandwich. I mean, that's
and
my
there's
thing.
Nothing like a tomato sandwich. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
You just said the words with a little bit of, I did just,
a little mayonnaise, a little salt and pepper, and bite into that, maybe a piece of lettuce out of the garden. Oh
yeah.
Yes, that is to die for food.
And Mom used to make, she would take onions and she would make, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, it was a wilted salad. What she would do is we would grow our lettuce, and then we would harvest the lettuce, and then she would have cucumbers and onions, and then she would fry bacon. And she would crumble the bacon into the salad, but then she would make the vinegar and oil dressing out of the bacon grease and put the hot grease on. I know it sounds, I mean, if you've never had it, it's called wilted salad. That's what we had.
And we had it too.
It was good. It tastes like home. It just tastes like home. It's
the cucumbers and the onions in the vinegar.
Yes. And she would put ice in there.
Yes, to make it crunchy.
Yes. And then she would fry the bacon, and then she would pour the bacon over the lettuce that we had picked, and wilted salad. There you go.
That's wonderful foods. And that's all available now. I mean, all of these great things we're talking about are available right now because the harvest is coming in. You've got strawberries. Strawberries are for a very, very short period of time.
Yeah.
And just like the Bing cherries are like 3 weeks, and that's it. You're done.
That's it. You're done.
So you better get out there now while you can get the good strawberries. And the best are the roadsides. A lot of the roadsides have the fresh honey now because they've already been out to get the honey from the hives. So you got that fresh honey, you've got the strawberries, and then you might find some, cabbage or lettuce or some other fresh vegetable to go with it. That's a meal right there. And throwing strawberries in your salad is pretty awesome too. Or
you can do a strawberry salad. And even I think with I've had strawberry salad with a little bit of meat in it, and it's still good. I mean, it just has a nice, but savory and sweet against each other.
Oh my goodness.
Makes a great, just the way it all tastes.
And Luther is one of those holidays where it's not Yule, so you're not running out having to get presents for everybody. It's not Samhain where you're having to prep everything. It's an easy holiday.
Yes,
and it's a holiday that, it's almost a child's holiday. That's how I perceive it. Because you go outside to the campfire. What did you do when you were a kid? You go outside to the campfire.
You sat down by the campfire.
If you want to be one of those moms like I was, you give everybody a stick and a hot dog. And there was dinner out at the campfire.
And you had a roast or marshmallows, make s'mores.
There's mountain pies.
Yeah. Now, what is a mountain pie?
Okay, you get a mountain pie maker, which is it's usually a square and it has very long handles on it. You take a piece of bread and you put it in the bottom and you put pie filling in it. You put another piece of bread on the top and you close it. And then you put it into the coals and you toast it.
Oh,
and when you pull it out, it's toasted on both sides, and then the inside is hot and gooey. So you pop it out of your mountain pie maker and you put a scoop of ice cream on it.
Oh, yum.
It is to die for. Or you take, if you have cast iron now, I do a lot of camping, so I have the cast iron Dutch oven. You put in a cake mix, you put in pie filling, you mix it all up, egg, a little bit of water. You close it, you put coals on the top and coals around the bottom, and you let it cook for about an hour.
And you've got a cake.
It's a gooey cake.
Yum.
And it's hot. And then you serve it with a scoop of ice cream.
That sounds good.
Oh my God, it's disgusting.
That sounds good,
And
Mom.
see, those are all family things that you can do with your kids
Sure.
out back in the backyard. So this is a holiday for me that's kind of like, it puts me in the mind of like a 4th of July where the cookout kind of thing, where you're just now, I used to live up north. So, I mean, it was snowing on my birthday in April where I'm from.
And that's odd.
So I
be
called my
snowing in
cousin.
April.
Yeah, the end of April, the very end of April.
Yeah, that would be weird for those of us that are down
from the
this way.
south. Yes,
yeah.
I'm used to that up in the mountains because my cousin called me and said, "Yeah, we got about an inch of snow on the ground," which is typical. And it's like it's just one of those things. It is the most awesome thing in the world. So I always put that out there that it's like to me it's more of a kid's holiday because the s'mores, the cooking over the fire with the hot dogs, that's my childhood coming back.
Oh yeah, so definitely.
It's a childhood holiday for us, and I really enjoyed it, and all my kids did because we do the little backyard barbecue and the fire and the whole thing with the kids. And it was something that was enjoyable. But while you're sitting around that campfire, that's when you can start talking about, how this correlates and how the seasons work and, how everything's connected. And, the kids start to understand. They understand more when they can actually see what's going on than you just
they're
telling
visual
them.
learners. Children like to see modules of things.
Right. And when you just tell them stuff, they're like,
okay. But if you have a picture of what's going on, you can say, this is what happened and this is how it happened.
Right. And if they're sitting out there and you're talking about the fires and you're talking about, Litha being, the longest day, the shortest night, well, they get that because they're sitting out in the yard now. And the daylight hasn't, it's still daylight out. So it kind of makes a better impression on them. So it's an easier holiday, I think, to teach because you're not fighting with Samhain, you're not fighting with Halloween. Yule, you're not fighting with Christmas.
No.
Those holidays we have competition. This is a holiday we have no competition.
There's no competition. It's summer solstice. Everybody get out, have a bonfire. I'm looking here. We got animals that you can do these with the kids too, like butterflies. You could make some sort of craft if you wanted to.
Butterfly wings.
Butterflies. These are just the wren, cattle, the phoenix, dragons, the Fey realm. That's another thing. You could have butterflies in the Fey realm, and you could make little wings and have everybody out, I don't know, playing tag.
This time of year, too, you do see the mushrooms start coming up because you have the dampness from the early spring. So you will see your little fairy circles. Those are big things with the kids too, explaining those. And this time of year, you do see them out more.
Yes, you do.
There's so much you can do with this holiday that people are like, oh, it's just Litha. To me, Litha is a child's holiday. And be the child. Be that child.
And if you are able to, you know what, if you're out in the country, or if you've got a swimming pool, I mean, if you're in a place where you know that you can get your feet in the water, go for a swim.
Oh, yes.
Go for a swim. Just don't go into an area where there's going to be, not crocodiles. Well,
we have alligators.
Alligators. I'm sorry. Don't go somewhere where there's a cottonmouth or water moccasins, those types of things. You don't want to be in a pond like that. But there's some like TVA here, and we've got a lake up here where people go skiing. There's things to do. We went up walking and hiking last weekend, and there was all kinds of people out, and it was kind of good to see everybody out on their boats and doing things, and people were in the water. I don't think people were quite yet ready to get in the water, but I think by mid-June you're ready to get in the water because the water's got to warm up.
Well, I live on the Gulf side, so our water is nice and toasty.
And toasty warm,
It is toasty warm this time of year, and the beaches are mobbed. But it is a great time. Like I said, for me, it's more of a kid's holiday that you can plan something at home. You don't have to have a gathering. You can do it yourself. If you have a
Mhm.
gathering, that's awesome.
Mhm.
But it's just, you can gather the kids together, take them outside, and you can do a whole ritual and everything, and not have to have any special preparation.
Right.
I mean, if you do Yule, there's preparation. You do Samhain, there's preparation.
There's
Even with
preparation.
Beltane, there's preparation.
Yes, there's preparation with just about everything. Even well, in bulk, not so much. Ostara though, there's preparation because we have the Ostara bunny.
Yes, and you have
So
the eggs you have to do and all.
yeah,
It's there's a lot of prep, but with this one, it's basically, okay, kids, everybody come outside. We're getting a stick and we're roasting marshmallows.
yeah, and we're having mead for everybody else.
And you just
You-
became the most popular mom on the block.
That's right.
She took the kids out for marshmallows over the open
That's
flame.
right. They go over there and they have their marshmallows, and I got meat over here.
Yes, that's basically how it works. And if you don't have a campfire or you can't do a fire, if you have a grill, it's the same thing. Put the little
Exactly.
hibachi out there and just burn it. And
That's
it
right.
gives you the same thing that you're going on.
Right.
So it's a holiday that you can work everything with. It's kind of like one of those cool holidays. And
hmm
that's why I like it, because I never had to work, Litha. I know that sounds
No, I mean it's
terrible.
just one of those where you just like, hey, we're having some people over this weekend. Can you come? Visit us or let us know. It BYOB.
Yeah, basically. And, most people will bring fruit salad or
Oh yeah.
watermelon or cantaloupe or a honeydew this time of year, or fresh corn on the cob. Oh my God, that's my
Yes.
favorite.
You can grill that corn out on the
Oh,
barbecue and
and
it is
that's the other
so
thing. You
good.
can cook outside. You don't have to heat up your house.
No, that's the thing I like. And there, you know what? There's something about being out in that hot, sticky, humid weather at night when you finished all your festivities and all of a sudden coming into the air conditioning.
Yes.
I don't know. It's like this relief. You're like, oh, I had such a great day. And it's like this, I don't know. It's just the way you feel. All of a sudden you come into the air conditioning and you're feeling good. And I don't
It's
know.
it's a win-win for me.
It
I
is.
mean, and I tell people are like, well, you got to do this. No, Litha is just one of those laid-back holidays that we can celebrate, especially with the kids, because there's so much you can do. The nature, just sitting in the backyard, because it stays light so much longer that even the little guys can be outside for a little bit longer. See
Hmm.
the little fireflies. How many squirrels can you count? That
Hmm.
kind of stuff. So it's a holiday that you can celebrate, but you don't have to put a lot into it. And I'm
Yeah.
kind of a laid back. I like that. Even if you have a cookout in your backyard, I like to cook out year round. So I have a grill, and it runs year round. But
Yeah.
to have, a couple people over, throw a couple burgers on the grill, and just basically sitting around, we got the fire pit going, and we're just sitting there, cold glass
Just
of
chilling
beer,
and talking. Yeah.
and just having like little music in the background. You're set. And I mean, if
Yeah.
you have the kids, it's great. Let them run, let them get that energy out. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
And it's warm enough that they're running around, and when they get tired, it's bedtime,
That's right.
and
And
they
they
will
get all that
drop.
energy out. And it's like when, well, I have a dog. Um, but we went walking last week and we did a 5 mile hike and
Ooh.
she's not used to that kind of, I mean, it was pretty treacherous and she slept the whole way home. And then when we got home, she went to sleep. So I could
She's like,
imagine
I'm done.
being with, but with little children being out there and then getting them down for the evening, that would
It's
be easy.
really easy. It's hard getting them in. Once you
Yeah.
reel them in, you get them in, you get them in the tub, you get them in that bed, and they're out before their head hits the pillow. So
Oh yeah.
for me, that was a great night, because
Hmm.
we celebrated, we talked about it, we went over some of the stuff, points where they can understand, and
Hmm.
then it was like, okay, they had their meal, then they had their s'mores or whatever we were doing, mountain pies, whatever, and then it was bedtime. And it was like, wow, you put the kids down for bed, you bring the monitor out, and the adults sit around the campfire, you bring out
Yes.
the adult beverages, as I call them. We used to call it adult soda.
That's what we call it. We call it. Well, my mom, growing up, I was just enamored with the wine glasses because I mean she would have friends over and I'd be like, I want a drink out of that glass, and she goes, no, this is a grown up drink. And then I couldn't understand it, and then I started understanding it. But it is.
You used to tell them that the beer was adult soda.
Yeah.
Worked for us. But I mean, after you put the kids down, then you still got, it's still semi light outside. So you can still sit out there and just enjoy the quiet and listen to nature and staring into a campfire. There is nothing more awesome than that. You lose yourself into that.
And we talked about that last week with
the scrying.
So,
I mean, that's a great way to lose yourself. You just sit there and you're relaxed. You got the campfire going. Someone's playing the guitar. You got a little music in the background. Kids are in bed. They're good. And it's like, wow, what a holiday. And you haven't had like 4th of July or Memorial Day. You're running around like a crazy person trying to get all the stuff in, because I used to cater. So everybody expected, we'll go to Pam's because she's a caterer. She knows how to feed us. And for me, those holidays were work. They were not enjoyable. But Litha, who knows what Litha is? So
it's just
Litha was a holiday I could enjoy because I didn't have to do much for it. There's not much to do. Hot dogs, hamburgers on the grill, fruit salad. They make s'mores, bedtime. We're done. So it's one of those comfortable holidays. And along with Litha and celebrating the seasons as they're changing, we have all of the veterans and military holidays in June. We have Flag Day, we have Memorial Day and D-Day. So we have all of those wonderful holidays to celebrate. I'm a military brat. A lot of my family's military. So those holidays are near and dear to my heart. So it's kind of like you just roll them all into one, and it makes it for a very comfortable evening, because not everybody knows what D-Day is. My uncle was in World War II, so I know what it is. Memorial Day, a lot of people confuse that with Veterans Day, which kind of okay, but not as long as you appreciate the military. Really, I don't care. But the great thing too is we now have the Pentacle at Arlington. And that was a fight that Circle Sanctuary and Selena Fox led. And believe it or not, she was backed up by a few Corellians on that one. There was participation on our side on it. And it's pretty damn special when you can go to Arlington and see a Pentacle on Patrick's
And see a Pentacle, yes. And those sacrifices that they made for us to be able to have that Pentacle on there. That's a lot.
It is wonderful that it took to 2007. Remember that, 2007. We were a recognized religion in 1973, and it took 2007 before we could get a Pentacle. Once they accepted the Pentacle, they started accepting other pagan symbols. So if you're in the military and you want something specific, pagan, you got to make sure your wishes are known, so that it can be put on, because it can be put on your marker now. It does not have to be just a pentacle. They've accepted quite a number of other symbols for the grave markers. So that kind of is very special to me, because although my family, everybody who fought was military, they were Christian, it's still the idea that it doesn't matter. You can get that out there. So it doesn't matter who you fought next to, whether they were pagan, Christian, or Jew. You can all have the symbol now on your headstone. So that was a big thing for me. I was very much behind that fight, because being pagan, it didn't matter. I did some chaplaincy at Fort Meade in Maryland, and I know what the sacrifice is. My dad did it. A lot of my uncles did it. A lot of my cousins did it. And I'm fortunate. I don't have to remember anybody on Memorial Day, but I do remember them all on Veterans Day. Memorial Day is to celebrate those who died in service.
Right. And then
Veterans Day is for anybody in uniform.
Exactly.
So people tend to confuse those. I'm such a turd, as I call it. I have it on my wall at work. I have Memorial Day and in big letters what it is, because a couple of people kind of like, they weren't sure what it was. So
Right.
I have Memorial Day, and I have D-Day, and I have Flag Day, so everybody understands. And then when Veterans Day, comes up, that goes up on my wall then, just so that people understand, because a lot of younger people really they've not grown up through a war. Our last real war, honestly, was Vietnam.
Yeah.
I mean, Desert Storm was more of a military policing.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long. Vietnam was our last big war, and unfortunately, I remember it all too clear. So it's, because a lot of my male friends got drafted. The draft was still in.
Yeah, and the draft was,
Yes.
I only have one relative that served in the military, and that was my maternal grandfather. He was in the Navy in World War II. So nobody in my family, in my immediate family, was in the military. But I highly revere anybody who served the country in the military.
My family has a lot of military. Where I'm from, it's either the military or the coal mines. So a lot of people pick the military. In fact, my uncle met my aunt in World War II. They had 5 children. Of those 5 children, 4 were in uniform.
Wow.
So when you say military family,
it's a big military family.
Yes. And I am of the military family that says, please don't put fireworks. Please be careful with the M80s and the very loud noises. The sparklers are cool. We can deal with those. But anything other than that can cause problems for the military. So just keep that in mind when you're excited about shooting off your fireworks. Please let your neighbors know. It's a need to know. If you have anybody around you that's military and you set something off, they're not aware of it, it can cause PTSD flashbacks, and it can cause a lot of things to go wrong that you don't want to go wrong.
Right.
So I do caution those, and I get it. I love it, but just keep in mind, any, like 4th of July is great, except if you're military sometimes.
Exactly.
4th of July is not a happy time.
And another thing too on that point is that, you've got to check with your local ordinances again here, like when we were talking about with the bonfires. There's some places that you can't shoot fireworks.
Well, look what happened in California. Was it last year or a year before last, when fireworks set off how many hundreds of acres of fire, and they traced it back to
the fireworks.
So, if you're going to do that, I leave it to the professionals, because I'm not smart enough to figure out how to do it. I'm going to be honest with you. I can do the sparklers. We call them angry incense. We can do that.
Yeah, where you just hold them up.
The kids walk around with them, and you're good. Other than that, I like to leave it to the professionals, because they know what they're doing, and even they can go wrong. So go somewhere where they have them. There's tons of places that have the fireworks that you can go to, rather than, I know it's kind of cool to set it off in your backyard, but it's not kind of cool if you set somebody's house on fire.
No, you don't want to do that.
And the same with shooting guns. A bullet goes up, it's got to come down.
Yeah.
What's that old poem? I shot an arrow into the air, it fell to earth, I know not where. Same thing happens with a bullet. You shoot it, and it's coming down somewhere, and you never know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
So I caution against that. I lived in Baltimore for many years, and that's a big thing in Baltimore, believe it or not, to shoot off guns and ammunition during all of the holidays. So I was always a little unnerved by that, because it's not so much shooting it off. If you shoot in the air, you're a good shot, and you shoot it straight up, then chances are it's going to come down and not bother anybody. But if you're not that good,
you can hurt somebody. You can kill somebody. People
die every year from it.
Yeah.
So just keep those thoughts in mind. But man, I'm telling you, it's a great holiday, and the veterans are It's kind of cool now. I remember when Vietnam veterans came back, and it was,
Mm-hmm.
I had relatives who fought in Vietnam, so I was very excited when they came home. So I didn't have
Yeah,
that animosity that, their government, our government sent them over there to do a job. They did the job. Don't be angry at them for doing the job. Be angry at the government for making the decision to do the job.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
a lot of people treated the Vietnam veterans really bad when they came back. And you have to remember the sacrifices. When you're a military family, it's just not the man that goes to war. I mean, you're left home with kids, and you're
Mm-hmm.
left to make decisions and have to be on your own when he's deployed. It is a very tough lifestyle to live. It is very difficult. It's hard on the kids. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot that's involved that you don't see unless you're military. Um, you don't see the flashbacks when somebody sets off a firecracker and you don't know about it. We were at my aunt's house and someone set off a firecracker and didn't tell the rest of them. Our family knew it was a friend of the family's, came over, lit the match, started the firecracker, and you've never seen 20 grown men dive under tables any quicker.
And it freaked them out probably for I mean,
Well, we
for the
used to
rest, it
call it going
ruined
on
their
a
night.
visit. Yeah, we called it going on a visit. It's actually a fugue state where they actually go back to where they were at that time. So we
Uh-huh.
had them in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam.
Yeah.
So I'm dealing with all three
Mm-hmm.
wars, so it's just, know your audience, know what you're doing, be responsible. And
Absolutely.
can't ask
Pam
for
is
more than
exactly
that.
right.
And all of our pagan military, yay, pagan military,
Yay.
celebrate, wear those pentacles loud and proud. They
Absolutely.
actually put them on the dog tags now. So you can get pagan dog tags. So, I mean, it's kind of, as I've seen over the years where you couldn't even mention the fact that you were pagan to where now we're at Arlington, it's
I
kind of,
know that we've come a long way, and thanks to the leaders that we've got in the pagan community, that
we
is
are
something that
extremely fortunate that we have such strong leadership.
we've, yes, we've
If
come
they
a
were
long
not
way.
strong, we wouldn't get what we got. I mean,
No.
Selena Fox started, and I give her a lot of kudos with Serpent
Yes,
Sanctuary to start the lawsuit with
yes,
the ACLU to get the Pentacle at Arlington and to get it recognized. There are pagan clergy ministers in the military. There's books on pagan military. I have several of them. And it explains, what a chaplain in the military, and if you're a pagan chaplain in the military, what your
mhm,
rules and rights are. So we're recognized by the military. So, stand proud because
absolutely.
we are there. Every year, Selena Fox usually does a big ceremony for Patrick Stewart was the gentleman that they went to fight to get his pentacle at Arlington. And that was a big fight. Once they got his, then there was a woman, Jan, who her husband was Christian. She was pagan. He was in the military. If you're a spouse of a career military, you can be buried with them in Arlington. And they went to bury her, and she wanted the pentacle. He has the cross. She wanted the pentacle. And when they won the fight for Patrick Stewart, she got her pentacle.
Good for her.
So there's a whole bunch of them out there now that have pentacles on them. So if you're anywhere near Arlington and you want to celebrate any of the military, you are allowed to go in and you're allowed to look at the headstones, and you can find the pagan ones and put a flower there. There is nothing wrong with
What
that.
a wonderful gesture, too.
What a wonderful gesture. And now change in the military, if you put change on different headstones, they all have a meaning.
What does that mean?
It depends on what their rank was and where when they served. You put change on the top of it. It's kind of like when you go into a graveyard and you take graveyard dirt, you pay for it. Well, it's an offering. It's not paying for it.
Okay.
It's an offering. Because if you go into a graveyard and you want to take the graveyard dirt, you always offer an offering to whomever you're taking the dirt from. And the offering can be many things. I tend to give change because money is a known exchange.
It's energy.
Right. And it's a known exchange factor. You can pour alcohol in the grave if you know it, like, my uncle, I would definitely pour a beer on his grave because that would be what he would want. But if you take the graveyard dirt, you always give an offering. And if you go into the military cemeteries, or you see a military cemetery grave, you just put change on it to thank them for their service.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, if they weren't serving, you wouldn't be here.
No,
it's kind of that thing people don't understand. Growing up military, it's a whole different lifestyle.
Yeah.
So you learn the sacrifices, you learn what goes on, you know how to behave at a funeral because you've been to so many funerals that you learn as a young child how to behave at a funeral because you've been to enough of them. So it's kind of that kind of thing, you learn to respect those kinds of things. So we've got Flag Day coming up. We've got D-Day coming up. Those are our times when we need to express our thankfulness to the military, but we need to thank also those leaders who lead our country. Yeah. So it's something to think about. Pagan leadership. I mean, look at our leadership now. We've got some really strong leaders out there. My goodness.
Yes, we do.
Awesome. It is totally awesome when you see those leaders go out and fight for things like this. They went out and fought for us to become 501c3s and to be recognized as a true religion. You know, I get that all the time. Well, you're not a real religion. Well, you tell that to the federal government because they've already justified us.
No, we're a 501c3 organization, so we are a true religion.
Yeah, and we are. Our group is. So that's kind of very exciting when you look at it.
Nonprofit organization. I mean, it's a nonprofit entity.
We are listed as a nonprofit religious organization. And there's only a few. In fact, Circle Sanctuary, Aquarian Tabernacle were two of the first in the 70s to become 501c3s. That opened the door. That said, hey, we're legal. So now you can celebrate. And we're going to have a show on this because Miranda must be on my mind. My Linda had talked about it, and she was like, well, how do you know what your rights are? And I was like, girl, Pagans in the Law is a book. And I learned over the years because my oldest could not celebrate the holidays. Because the schools had a real hard time believing that. Now, she was born born in 71. It wasn't recognized till 74. So even though she was young, it may have been recognized in Congress and in Washington, but it wasn't recognized everywhere. So there was a fight until she hit high school. Once she hit high school, the fight was over because then it was already known.
Well, it's still to this day. I mean, in certain parts of the country, you're going to come. Those are some of the challenges that we have to face as a community. I've been at the hospital before in the last 3 or 4 years, and they asked me what my religion was, and I told them, and the nurse kind of turned up her nose, and I was like, "What's that look for?" So anyway,
my best hospital story was about 20 years ago. I went in and they asked what my religion was, and I said pagan, which is the umbrella because it's easier to explain, and it's also nicer words than saying I'm a witch. It's easier to say you're pagan.
Right.
So they sent this little young girl in, like, we used to call them candy stripers. I don't know what they're called.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But volunteer.
So she comes in and says, well, ma'am, do you have any religious requirements for your food, for your dietary intake? And I looked at her, and in all seriousness, I said, yes, it has to be good. She didn't crack a smile or nothing. She walks out to the desk. I knew when she hit the front desk and told them, because the laughter from the front desk was more than I could handle. I lost it in there. I was laughing as hard as them.
That is funny, Pam.
But they were like,
I could see you now too telling her that.
I said, it's got to be good food. So, and she had no expression on her face. She went running out and she told him the news, and the whole desk lost it. So that was good. That's the one where I screwed up my x-rays.
Oh, no.
Note to you, if you're a Reiki master, do not Reiki in the x-ray room. You will screw up the x-rays beyond all hope.
Really?
Ooh, I did. I was being wheeled down. My lupus had kicked up, and my lungs actually look like I have double pneumonia all the time because they have fluid in the bottoms of them. It's part of the disease. No big deal. So they're wheeling me down because they have to do a chest x-ray. Every time you go in, regardless, you go in for a toenail, they're going to take you down for chest x-rays. You just know that. So the woman says to me, she says, I noticed on your chart, you said you're a pagan. I am. And I'm waiting for the fight. You know how you prep yourself? So I got all the stuff in my brain. And she's like, do you do Reiki? Well, that caught me totally unaware. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a Reiki master. Why? Like, you really do it? I'm like, yeah. She says, really? And I'm like, yeah.
You're like, yeah.
So they get me down. They're in a you're in a wheelchair. They wheel you down there. And she's like, can you Reiki my back? Okay, sure, not a problem. Come over here. I said, you got to step back a little bit closer because I'm in a wheelchair. I can't get out. So she backs up. She's literally standing between my legs, okay? And I'm doing the Reiki on her back. She's like, oh my God. She's like, I mean, you would have thought, okay.
The Reiki goes where it's supposed to go. So
exactly.
She got the good feelings.
Well, the tech is in, they're behind that shield. Well, the tech's behind the shield, and she comes out. And she's like, what's going on? She says, like, I can tell you exactly where her hands are at. They are so hot. And she's telling the girl where my hands are. Well, Reiki, you don't touch anybody. So I'm like 12 inches away from her back. And she's like, oh, she's down there at the back. Oh, she's at my kidneys. Yes. Oh, can you do a little bit more on that kidney? I mean, this is what's going on in the x-ray room, right? So the x-ray tech is like, oh my God, can you really feel that? And I told her, I said, put your hand between my hand and her back. And she was like, oh my God, that is so cool. So they finally decide to do my x-rays, which is what I was taken down there for in the first place. I had blackened both the x-rays. They had to pull them out and put new x-ray film because I had blackened the film. And the girl was like, the girl I Reiki'd was like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. And the technician was like, I've never seen that ever. Note to y'all who are Reiki masters, do not Reiki when they put the new film in.
Don't Reiki around the x-ray room.
The x-ray room, because you will screw up. It came out black because she pulled them out and put them up and showed me. She said, this is what you did.
Wow.
They hadn't even turned the machine on. She had put the slides in ready for me. I did the Reiki. She pulls the slides out and throws them up, and they're black. She's like,
oh my goodness gracious.
She's like, we've got to do her. And the girl says, oh, I'm so sorry. I meant to tell you not to do that. I've had this happen before. And I'm like,
that's bizarre.
So, yeah. Tell me,
what do you think it could possibly be?
It's the energy.
It's just the energy.
Those films are meant to actually photograph energy, is what they're doing. They're shooting energy into you. That's why there was a big thing years ago causing cancer and all this stuff. Well, yeah, if you get enough x-rays, it will. But what it does is it shoots that energy into you to make the picture. While I'm shooting energy into this woman in front of me, you cannot control it going around her.
Right.
Even though I'm focusing on her, I blew up both the x-rays. They had to retake my x-rays.
Incredible.
And the girl told me, she said, oh my God, I forgot that happened once before. She'd had a Reiki master in there. She had a kidney issue, and it made her back hurt. Well, kidney issues will make your lower back hurt. And standing on your feet all day as a nurse, you can just imagine how achy it got. So that little bit of Reiki I gave her really relieved her, but at the same time, it blew up my x-rays. So I warn anybody who's a Reiki master, no Reikiing in the x-ray room. No. you will screw up everything. Because I swear they came out black and I had to have them redone. I was so mad. But that's another group
That's
of
really
people.
that's I've never heard of such, Pam. That's I mean, but that's I can believe it. I can believe that. I can see that happening.
It's like,
I'm still on. I'm studying level 2 Reiki, so I'm not yet at the master level. But
I did not
I
think that I was strong enough to do that. You don't know how strong you are. I didn't think I was strong enough to do anything. I thought it just would go into her and that would be it. But no, I blew up both X-rays. And she showed them to me. She said, "Look at this. This is what you did," and they were black.
wow.
I'm like, I didn't do anything to them. I was like, I didn't do anything. And the woman that I X-rayed was like, "Oh, I forgot to say. Oh, I didn't know you'd put them in there already." They're prepping when you come down, so you don't know what's
Yeah.
going on. But yeah, don't Reiki in the X-ray room.
No,
That's
don't Reiki in the X-ray room. Make a mental
that
note
needs to be
now.
on, the disclaimer when you get your Reiki master. No Reikiing in the X-ray
No,
room.
right.
The
The
fun
energy
things
is
you
that
learn.
strong.
I did not know, but evidently it happens. And if you're concentrating energy, just remember you can set off, those EMF meters.
Yes.
Back in the
Tim does the
day.
EMF all the time with his
Oh,
with
girl, I
his
can set them things off at 20 paces.
yeah, I bet you could.
And it is because we had to. Part of our, we used to do intensives. And at one time, one of the intensives was to see if you could set one off.
Wow.
And
okay.
yeah, if you focus, you can set that little sucker right off.
Make
And
it go off.
yeah, that's what we had to do. It was set out there, and you had to make sure you could set it off. And everybody who was in the Reiki class was able to set it off. Those who were not in the Reiki class were not, because you learn to focus your energy more in Reiki than, if you're a witch, you know how to focus your energy. When you do Reiki or healing, then you really learn to focus and control and concentrate. And I didn't realize that there was that much of a difference, because I knew I could control. I did the Reiki master, but I didn't realize how much control I actually had over my energy until you can focus it and set that sucker off. So it was kind of cool. It's a little fun thing I can do now. I set off those EMF meters.
I give you props, Pam.
Oh, hey, anybody can do it. All you have to know is how to focus that energy. And
you really do.
You don't know how much you can focus until you do it. And then it's like, oh my God.
And then you realize you're
the first time I set it off, let me tell you, I was in total shock. I thought somebody else did it. And they're like, no, you were the one. Do it again. And I did it. And I was like,
you're like, what did I just do?
I was like, oh my God, I almost peed myself. I was so excited. It's just one of those things, But when you're working and you're learning how to deal with this energy, it's amazing when people say, Reiki doesn't help, or Reiki's, fake and all this.
Mm-hmm.
I love to hear those stories, because University of Maryland Shock Trauma Burn Unit actually has Reiki masters who volunteer to go in to help the patients. Because when they're Reiki, they use less morphine, and it's a proven point. Just like chiropractic back in the day, if you went to a chiropractor, your insurance laughed and said, you're paying for that.
I know. And they finally started doing insurance. I remember in the late 90s, because I went back when I could go like for $10 a visit.
Yes.
My insurance. We won't go there, but I would go 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah. And they swore it was, they called it everything from snake oil medicine to, and massages the same way. They said, oh, that doesn't help. That's bull.
No, it does.
And
it
now
makes a huge difference.
Your insurance company will send you to a masseuse. Your insurance company will send you to a chiropractor. Mm-hmm. We're trying to get Reiki that way. Georgetown University in DC and University of Maryland Shock Trauma Burn Unit. Burns are the most painful injury you can have. So they ran all kinds of blind tests and all that kind of stuff to try to get where Reiki is like chiropractic. They will send
We
you to
have a
master.
Reiki healer, it's a couple that does their Reiki masters here local. They've got a great practice. She does sound therapy too, and she's taught me how to do that. But in the state of Tennessee, you do have to have a massage therapy license in order to practice it in a room.
That was what they
you
require
can
here.
Distant healing, and that's what I'm learning to do now. But there's a fine line there, and I think it all depends on what your state laws are. But
your state laws in Florida is you have to have a deep tissue massage license, because I tried to transfer my Reiki in Baltimore, Maryland. I had a sign out in my yard that said Reiki 30 minutes, $30. And that's how I made extra money, because people would come in for Reiki all the time. Right. In Florida, when I went to transfer, I was trying to transfer a lot of my, credentials down here, and Florida was like, you need a deep tissue massage. And I said, no, honey, I don't touch you. In fact, I don't want to touch you. I don't want you to take anything off. In fact, I will give you 2 extra blankets to put on you so I don't touch you.
Right,
She started laughing. She evidently knew what it was, and she's from the north, and she's like, where are you from? And I'm like, Baltimore, Maryland is where I lived. And she's like, yeah. She's like, no, honey, it's a 9-month course down here that you have to take. It's quite expensive. Once you pass that, then I can do that. And I'm like, but you understand, I'm not touching you. I don't want to touch you.
Right.
I'm this high above your body for a reason. But yeah, a lot of states require that because they really don't know what to do with it. Now, in Florida, if you do it with a love offering, and if it's part of your spiritual practice and you can prove it, which we can, you can put out a card that says love offering, but you can't put like a minimum or any price on it. You just have to say love offering. So I guess you have to explain to the person. It's most places it runs $1 a minute.
Yeah, well, I had a gentleman. We went to Festival of Souls, which is a local place. It's a local festival. This was years ago. Anyway, a fella came in from another state. He came in from Missouri, and this was in Memphis, and he charged $1 a minute. He was in the vendor area, and he did Reiki, but he had a massage therapy license.
Yeah, that's what they told me I got to look at.
I have a manicuring license with the state of Tennessee, the cosmetology board. I'm certified with the cosmetology board, so I could probably do Reiki on the hands, because I can legally touch somebody's hands and up to their elbows.
Oh, yeah. So you could probably do that.
So, yeah. So because of those legalities, I probably am able to do, I would do.
Yeah, I'd gotten totally shut down when I came here, unless I do it as a quote unquote love offering. Which I've done a few Reiki sessions here and the love offering. And I was fortunate the people who came to me were like, okay, the usual $1 a minute. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I can't verbally say that. And they said that to me, and I said, yeah. And they're like, okay, I'll take 30 minutes. Big deal. Throw them up on my table. They got 30 minutes. But you've got to really watch what your state requirements are. See, I got spoiled up north. All of my credentials. Down here, none of my credentials. The only thing that transferred without a fight was my clergy.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing about moving to a different state, is trying to transfer that. When I lived in Georgia, I just kept my Tennessee license. I just kept it renewed every year, or every 2 years. You have to renew it every 2 years. And I would just send it in, and then that way I at least could get into the houses and buy my wholesale goods.
Well, what was funny? You laugh about that, but Tammy Wynette has her hairdresser's license and has renewed it every year. Like she's never going to do hair again. But when you think about it,
but I can get really good deals on stuff that people would pay high dollar, And every now and then I'll tell people, if you need something, let me know, and I'll get it for you. Just make sure you pay me.
But it's funny. Here she is, she's made gazillions of dollars.
She's Tammy Wynette's a legendary country music singer, so I
Right.
mean, yeah.
And she still had her hairdresser's license. And I was like, I flipped out every year, every 2 years, whenever
It's
the
every
renewal
two
is.
years here in Tennessee. I don't know. I think it depends on your state, but it's mostly every 2 years.
Yeah. So she writes that check every 2 years out of her
It's like 50 or
billions
60
of dollars to
Yeah.
get her license. And it used to crack me up, and I used to think, why you do that? Well, when I transferred down here and half my credentials didn't transfer, I'm like, I know exactly why she did that.
Right.
So I was like really mad when nothing transferred except my clergy papers. I was like, are you kidding me? Do you know how much money I made up north?
Frustrating. It is very frustrating.
It is when you're credentialed. I mean, when you take the classes, you spend 2 or 3 years doing it. You go through the expense, and like I'm a holistic healthcare practitioner. That was a 2-year course. It was $1,200, and I
you
can't
invested
practice
that
down here.
Yeah, you invested the time and the resources.
Yeah, and I can't practice here. In Maryland, I practice. In fact, my late husband was, if it wasn't for me, he probably would have died sooner, because I was able to make a dandelion tincture for him because he couldn't take, he had a bad heart. Diuretics gave him indigestion and robbed him of his potassium. To give him potassium caused his GERD to act up. He ended up dying of throat cancer from acid reflux. So in order to have him not be sick all day by taking a potassium pill or eating a banana or whatever, I made a dandelion tincture for him to use for a diuretic. And dandelion does not touch your potassium. So he was able to use that and flush.
And that was able to.
And he kept his potassium level up. Because if you lose enough potassium, it'll give you a heart attack. You'll go into a massive coronary. So I was able to do that up there. His cardiologist, I went in, I talked to her, we talked about it, because we were having such a hard time getting potassium into him. And I'm like, he's already got a heart condition. I don't want to give him a heart attack. And, we were fighting. We tried everything, drops, pills, capsules, suppositories. We tried it all, and nothing worked. And then I said, well, look, I can do this. And she's like, you can? I'm like, I took the course. Here's my credentials. And she was like, make it. And when we did the course, you had to make several tinctures and send them into a chemist and pay to have them analyzed to make sure you knew what you were doing.
Right.
And I did the tincture. I gave it to her. She tested it. She came back. She said, make a gallon of it. She said, because
she's like, give me a whole bat of it.
She was like, he gonna be taking it. So that's literally how I made extra money up north, was tarot. I did tarot readings, I did my Reiki, and I did my holistic healthcare, along with my, counseling and stuff like that as a clergy person.
Right.
But yeah, it's amazing. And it's really great when you can help people, because that's the whole purpose.
Absolutely.
So yeah, but there's a lot of venues now that are starting to open up a little bit more as our religion becomes more and more, I don't want to say every day, but it's people are no longer, when you say the word pagan, they're not, jumping and showing crosses at you, and burn her, she's a witch type thing.
I think it's growing more accepting with the up and coming new generation.
The new generation are more open, because they're if a religion doesn't, or a spiritual path doesn't grow with you or grow, if it's the same stuff, people are less accepting of it, because you're not moving up with it. You're just stuck at this level, and paganism grows with you, because you got to grow your path. So you're forced into growing. You don't have a choice, or you stay at that level. So you can take it as far as you want. And by being able to grow your spiritual path, a lot of people now are like, well, that's what we want. We want something that's going to grow and be more into our lifestyle. Whoever thought we'd be doing this 10 years ago?
None. Never. I mean,
Never.
Just 10 years. 10 years has made such a difference in the technology that we have, and and not only that, but being able to show that we are actually genuine. I mean,
and we're real, and it's not
yeah,
like I'm riding around on a broom anywhere. God, if I could do that, you know how much money I'd save in gas, insurance.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, it's funny. I joke at work. I have the watch. I'm
Uh-huh.
Android. I'm not an iPhone person.
Me too. I'm an Android person myself.
And I did the Dick Tracy thing. I answered my boss on my watch, and I read Dick Tracy as a kid. And
Right.
I remember when he got his watch from his little alien girlfriend before they had the alien babies. And
Hmm.
yeah, you got to go back and read Dick Tracy.
I'll need to go
And
back and read it.
I remember, him pushing a button and talking. And I'm standing here and I slid it across and I'm talking to him. I'm like, my God, I'm Dick Tracy. I'm talking to the boss on my watch. And it was one of those stupid moments where he's talking to me and I didn't hear a word he said because I was so like, holy shit. I'm talking and it's on my watch, And it was one of those moments and he's like, are you there? Are you there? I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. I just got carried away with the moment. And when he came, my boss is as young as my granddaughter. Okay. So when he came in, he was like, what was going on when I called you? Well, and he's thinking there's something going on at work. And I said, it was a Dick Tracy moment.
Yeah.
And he's looking at me going, oh, a what? I'm like,
The Dick Tracy moment.
And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh my God, come here. And I type in Dick Tracy and I bring it up and I bring up the watch and I said, look at the date. Look at the date. And he's like, oh my God. I said, your parents were alive at that time because I'm older than his mother, so I know when she was born. And I'm like, they were alive at that time, but look at that date. And he was like flipping out. He was like, oh my God, who thought of that? I'm like, I don't know. But it's freaking bizarre because I'm talking on my watch. So, I mean, if you look 10 years ago, we couldn't do that. But now we're sitting here on Zoom having this conversation. We're doing ritual on Zoom. I do it every month.
Yeah, I've seen you and Miss Mary do the ritual.
And it's
and
like,
just the connections that we've made actually in 2020, Zoom was the big, I mean, that's what opened up the whole portal for everybody,
And we're doing such crazy things and wonderful things that it's like, wow. So if your faith can't grow to handle a Zoom room, how's it going to handle the rest of your life existence?
Right.
Because you talk to any younger person and I'm dealing with them on a daily basis, and they're instantaneous information. They're used to getting that stuff right now. And it's like their spiritual lives are back 2,000 years ago.
I know.
So they're like going, well, how, like there are times at work when I'm an accountant, so things go really crazy sometimes. So there's times where I'm like, I need a 5 minute. Everybody's got to leave.
I'm
5 minute. I do a quick meditation. So I'll sit there and I focus, concentrate, relax, breathe it in, breathe it out. Now I'm ready to go. And they'll look at me and they're like, well, wow, my faith actually taught me that. So our faith is teaching us how to take on the millennials because you do a really quick, you can put yourself into a meditative state quick.
Yeah, I've done that. When I was working at the place where I worked at, I dealt with customers and a lot of one-on-ones, with clients. And I sometimes would take a break to my car. Unfortunately, I could walk out to my car and I would get in the car and I would almost call the quarters in my car sometimes. Yeah. But it was like I was just basically doing the exercises in order to get myself that bubble of protection, and then to ground and release. And then I would go back to what I was doing, and whatever it was that was bothering me before, it was gone. And I just kept going on about my day. And that's how I remained steadfast, where I was.
Right. And could you think of any other faith that would let you do that? I
can't. No, because I mean, I have had friends, I had coworkers who would, they were like, well, you'll have to go to the stock room to do this, this, and this. And I just didn't say anything. I would just say, this is what I've got. I'll be back. I've got to go have a moment. And then I would.
Yeah. I walk into my office and say, "Give me 5," and I will sit there. And I actually, I'm from West Virginia, so I have a lump of coal that my cousin actually pulled out of her yard. She lives right across from a coal mine. She said, "Here, this is to remember, so you can remember where the hell you're from."
Right. Don't forget where you came from.
Yeah, that was her little push. So I literally have it on my desk, and I just put it in my hands, and I just sit there for a minute, and it's almost as good as any obsidian I've ever had. I just sit there and hold it, and it's like I'm grounded.
And it helps you.
It helps right you down, and nobody I know. I have several very religious coworkers who just, and it's like, what do you do to, get rid of that? And they're like, well, I said, man, my faith shows you. Let me show you. You grab something, you hold on to it, put all of it in there, and then you set it over there and you just let it go. And I've actually been teaching that quick meditation to some people who are very religious, and they're like, where did you learn this? I said, my path has been doing this for years.
Yeah, this has been going on for centuries.
I said, our path grows with us. So no matter what obstacles get thrown in our direction, we have different things in place already that we can do to make it work. And it's whether you chant, some people chant, some people have to spend 5 minutes listening to some of the new age music to, clear their mind, or, the rocks, the whatever, you have on your desk, your stones, your crystals. And she's like, are you kidding? I said, no, our path's been around for so many years. We can just do this kind of crap. And it amazes me as a psych major that this makes sense. That other doesn't really resonate with me. So if I can tell you to take this, hold on to it, put everything into it, then put it on your desk and walk away, and you've left that crap there, your whole day's just started over again.
That's right. It's like you're hitting a reset button.
Yeah. And I don't know of any other faith that has that reset button. That's a really good thing. Yeah. Reset.
You're resetting everything.
And you're just, going on. But it's fascinating when you start looking at it, because like these millennials are like coming in, and many of them are joining the ranks of not so much, I guess, neo-pagan, pagan, Buddhism, all of those. They're just starting to really look at those rather than the mainstream, because the mainstream is failing them in many ways.
It is. I think a lot of it is disappointment. There's a lot of, I don't know. It's hard to say. Each person's individual, but I mean, depending on how you were raised and how that was, I think, and also the tolerance that went on in your family dynamic, I think that some people just sometimes they run and they chase the dragon, as we've all called it before. But then there's some people who are really looking at the meditation, the mindfulness, grounding and centering, everything like that.
It gives you equipment to deal with your day.
Exactly.
I'm equipped when I walk in. If I'm over stressful, I know what to do. If I'm just depressed, I know what to do. If I'm having this happen, I know what to do. So it's in all the spiritual paths I've been in, this is the one that tells me, okay, you're going to have a bad day. We know that because it happens to everybody. Here's how you can help yourself through it. I don't see that anywhere else where...
I think that's that shadow work that old Carl Jung, I think it's, and of course, Carl Jung he was only around for the last 100 years. But that's the philosophy, and that's behind that whole thing of shadow, the human shadow.
But when you walk,
able to face your own soul.
Right. And when you walk this path, we give you the tools.
Right.
We give you the meditations. There's 1 million meditations out there at least.
Yes, there are gobs of them.
Pick one. Pick one that resonates with you.
I have actually read the soul retrieval to myself and recorded myself doing it and in an ASMR voice to put my own self to sleep at night. That was something that I read. It was out of, I believe, the Second Degree book.
Mm-hmm. But we're equipping you with things to get you through your day, not necessarily through your path, but just to get you through the day.
Right.
You're scatterbrained. You've got so much energy. Go ground. Grab some iron. Grab some hematite.
Something like this is I actually brought my stones along tonight. This is iron pyrite, which is a very nice, fiery, charged by the sun type of stone. It's very good for manifesting things, and it's a good one for Lisa. So I wanted to show that.
Right, and
it's called Fool's Gold.
You're equipped to know that if you need that, know to use that.
Yes, I do.
And just like obsidian, if you need obsidian, you know how to use it.
Yeah, and then I have fluorite right here. This is a little fluorite one with mine. And then this is desert rose, which is actually sediments of selenite. But it's one of my favorites. And I bought this from a local, all of these pretty much I bought from a local shop. Now my rose quartz skull that I have, I got this from Jack Crystals there in Jacksonville because Miranda, I'm going to give her a plug, and I'm going to give Jack Crystals a plug because they actually have they did have live streams where
they still do. I was on last night,
and I think I had to turn it off because I was spending too much money. So
I was on it last night. Yeah, Miranda, I was on it last night.
Hey, Miranda, I got this from you. And then I actually have one over here. This is a flame.
Oh, I like that.
And I honestly probably will need Miranda to leave it in the comments because I don't remember what it is. And that's sad, but I just loved it. And I had to have it. So I've got it sitting over here in my curio.
But you know what's fascinating is our path sets you up how to use all that stuff.
Right.
So it's kind of like it's moving with us. Our faith is growing with us because I know there's days at work when I grab that piece of coal and it's like, do not throw, hold. Because there's days you want to toss it at somebody and you just, that's why I put both hands over it.
I mean,
I cannot throw like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But it's funny how we are set up to de-stress, whatever is going on, and then you got too much energy that day, you just do a little ground and centering and you're ready to go on. Who would have thought 4,000 or 5,000 years ago we were going to need this? But our path grows with us. So it grows to where I'm wearing this today because I knew Friday today was going to be stressful. So I have my little black obsidian so I can just sit there and rub it at work. I know that's silly, but let me tell you, it really and truly works. You can just sit there and focus everything on it, and I'll sit there like this at work, and then I'm good to go for the next 2 hours.
Absolutely. So, I used to keep the piece of malachite here with me in my pocket when I was in sales, and that always helped. And I mean, people might have thought I was crazy, but to me, it worked. It was just the mindset. I knew that if I had this in my pocket, it centered me to realize that I was going to have a productive day. And I mean, I know that that's, a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's malachite, that's so run of the mill. But you know what? It works. Whatever works for you.
Nothing could be more run of the mill than my piece of coal that's sitting on my desk. And there are days when it's all going the wrong way and sideways, and you're so stressed that, if one person looks at you, you're going to kill them. And I'll just reach for that and just hold it in my hand. And it's like, I'm okay. Yeah. And I can't explain it in terms that everybody can understand. If you're pagan, you get me. You're like, yeah, that's good. Because whatever it is, I mean, it could be whatever you've got on your desk. It's going to work, but we're set up that way to look for something to center us, something to ground us, something to get us through, rather than going off the deep end and having, I had a girl actually go into a panic attack at work, and I'm like, really? And it was like, what are you doing? Why? And mouth, why aren't you grounding and centering? Oops, because she doesn't know what that is, Pam. So it was coming back to her and saying, okay, you're going over this stuff. You really need to find something to focus on. And I'm looking at her desk, trying to find something. And I said, you know what? You need to get something in here of your religious persuasion that you can focus on when you get like this. A statue, a candle, whatever it takes for you to focus. And she's looking at me like, and I'm like, bring something in. I don't care what it is, but get it on your desk tomorrow. Right. We're not going through this again. And she's like looking at me like, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, you got a statue at home, you got a candle at home, you got something at home somewhere that
it can be anything. It can
focus on in your religious path there. And she's Protestant, so I'm like throwing out, I know you've got a cross, you've got a statue of somebody that you can relate to, or you have a candle with a saint on the front, just something. So she ended up bringing in this little cross and sits on her desk. And now when things get hot, and I'm like,
you can hold that.
I'm like, your cross. And she'll snatch it up, and she's like, I've never used it for that. And I said, you've never been taught to use it like that. I said, in my path, we use whatever it is. And she looked at me. She says, is that why you have that lump of coal there? And I said, yep. I said, that lump of coal, if it could talk, would say things that nobody in this office needs to hear. But I put everything into that lump of coal.
That lump of coal goes all the way back to West Virginia.
It does, and it's got deep roots, and it is the thing that I can go in, and if I get overwhelmed sometimes at work. Usually I'm the calm one at work. Usually if I get upset, then the whole office falls apart. So I have to present this persona of being able to handle everything. And I'll tell you, I can't. I'll go into my office and I snatch that thing up, and I'm squeezing it so hard, I'm going to turn it into a diamond in a minute and put it back down, and I'm good. I can walk back out and handle the situation that's going on. But my path has prepared me. My whole time on the path, what did they tell you? Meditate. Find the, whatever it is, the hematite. Hematite grounds you. Where's your hematite?
Where's your hematite at?
Okay. This is my hematite. Today was going to be a bad day, and I know it going in. The hematite's here, and the coal's on my desk.
And you were prepared.
What path tells you to prepare yourself, to take your crystals into work or in your bra. Miranda was hysterical. She was pulling everything out of her bra the other night. We were at Angela's. I was no more good. I was done at that point. I was totally done. I was on the floor. I was no more good. And she's like, watch this. And she just starts whipping stuff. I'm like, oh man, I'm impressed. But it's the preparation of our path. And I really think it's a really good idea that maybe some of the other religions or, things need to start coming into the 20th century or maybe the 18th century, because some of them are that far behind. But I think it's really a good idea. And I think just preparing yourself, just like with our holidays, it's like, how do you prep for your holidays? I said, we know what they are. There's really no prep.
Right. No, there's not any prep with this holiday, and that's what I like about it, because you can just have, and there's nothing that's just standing out that's screaming that it's got to be for specific, a specific thing. It's just, everybody has, like we said earlier, you have a cookout, you have activities for the kids, fun.
And you can't beat that for a holiday where you can actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because if you're the hostess, as you well know, you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, as well as other things. But
a lot of times you like, I mean, my grandmother was like this. My dad's mom, she loved to entertain people. I mean, she absolutely loved to put on a party. And I don't know, sometimes I miss that. But anyway.
Well, this has been awesome. Oh my gosh, we have gone way over time as usual. I'm not even going to apologize.
We had fun. We had a good time.
And that's what happens on this show. You just have so much fun. My Linda, a quick update. Mike is home. He is doing better. She is now schooling him in how to behave. And we all know that that's a tough road. She is now getting him whipped into shape, as I told her. I said, whip him into shape. She has all of us, and I will tell you that everybody who lit candles, prayed, sent energy.
Thank you.
She was in tears.
Yeah.
And she was like, I felt everybody.
Yeah.
Because it really hit her hard. It was the first experience, and it hit her very hard. And so now it's a matter of getting Mike back healthy again. He's seeing specialists. Doctors are lined up. He's a good candidate. He's healthy. So now he's just, got to get through a few things, of course, with any sickness. And she is, doing the wife thing and trying to keep things together as we women normally do. And Mike does say thank you. The doctors were amazed at how quickly he responded to everything. And we all know why, because all of us were sending Reiki and candles and prayers. Right. And she had, it was so funny when we heard I called you and you called me, and we got on our phone trees. Everybody in the world.
We did.
She got prayers from literally all over the world. People just tagged her, and so I say sometimes I joke about us being, in a spider web. When somebody pings, everybody answers. When you're in a time of need and everybody comes together, and even if it's just lighting a candle for somebody, it means mountains to them. The fact that everybody did it, I just thank you. My heart pours out to you, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
And we love you very much.
I did not think that she would. I was surprised. She's holding up like a rock, but she still needs prayer. She still needs some energy. The girls are dealing as best they know how. Mom's helping, and we're, things, whenever there's a crisis in the family, everybody feels it. So everybody needs the energy. And as pagans, we know that. And we send energy family style, which means it hits whoever it needs. So fortunately, the girls got hit really good with the energy, and they're coming together with it. And she's getting all the proper care for Mike as well as herself, because that was one of the big things I screamed at her about, that I told her if not, I was going to come kick her butt. But, well, you have to take care of yourself in order to take care of your family. And right now, let's face it, we women we're the home. The home sits with us.
Yes, we do.
She is putting things together with the kids and getting him back on his feet so that she can come back. She was like, I really want to do the show tonight, but he really needs me right now because of timing medications and timing, everything that's got to be done. So without giving away all of his medical issues, it is working. So please keep the prayers and the candles coming for another couple weeks. That's all we're asking, just so he can get up and going. Those who have won awards, we do have cups going out this week. I'm going to the post office tomorrow to mail a few. Melinda's been keeping up with that. She's, been handling some things behind the scenes that y'all don't see. And Corey, thank you. I cannot thank Corey enough.
I've enjoyed it.
For stepping in. I mean, I felt so bad last minute having to call.
I hate that it has to be under these circumstances, but I don't mind at all stepping in to help. We're a family,
It's a
that's
tribe.
what we do, and it's part of our ministry to help one another, and that's the whole point of it. So.
I love being part of a tribe because doesn't matter what happens. We all step up for each other. And I guess the three of us have been fussing and working our way through this for all the stuff that we've been through for the last, 2 years at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've grown very close, and it's just wonderful that we were able to tap on Corey and say, can you please help? And of course, Corey is like the ultimate lady instead of pushing to come on board. Oh, I appreciate it because we really didn't have someone who could step in, and we had talked about doing extra shows and putting them in what they call the can back in the day, but we were going to have a couple shows just done just in case something like this happened, and we never got to them because life happened. And then it was like, now we need it, and Corey has been the goddess and stepped in and held our show together for us. So I mean, we couldn't do it without you.
But thank you, Pam. I appreciate those kind words.
We've gotten the best reviews from everybody. Likes to having Corey on, so it's wonderful. So it's just great to know you have a sister that you can pick up the phone and say. And I'll tell you, I picked up the phone the night Melinda and things happened. And I was like, I need a rock.
Yeah.
Great. You just need to talk to me and say something. And your little accent is what got my Linda through. She told me, she says, your accent just calms her to no end. And
I appreciate that. I don't know what I'm just being me.
She was so funny. She called me and she says, I had to call her. I just had to call her. I had to hear her voice. She walked me through 2 panic attacks. I was like, you had a panic attack? She said, I had 2 of them. And Corey walked.
I didn't know what was going on. And she said she's having a panic attack. So I called her and then she told me what was going on. And I was like, oh my goodness. And so, yeah, it was frightening. But, the best thing to do is to stay calm. And if somebody, actually my neighbor who is a Vietnam vet, I will just say this, he told me, if you ever see somebody in distress, he says, and I have seen some people in distress, and he goes, I don't talk about my experiences over in Vietnam, but I will say I had to look at people and say, it's been nice knowing you, but I've got to move on. But the one thing I didn't do was I didn't get upset and start crying in front of them, because I knew that if I did that, it was just going to make them feel bad. So the best thing to do is to stay calm, so that way you can help them through. And when he told me that, coming from someone who had survived Vietnam, that doesn't talk about it very much and seems to be very centered, that really stuck with me.
Well, I can honestly say when I called you, I just needed a rock for, you look like the strongest person in the world, and then when something happens, it throws you off kilter. You need someone to say, breathe.
Yes.
And I called Corey, and Corey's telling me, breathe. Yeah.
I did.
Okay, thank you. And that's what got me through. So it's a tribe. And I will tell anybody that when you get into this group, it's a tribe, and you know who you can call on in your tribe to get what you need. And Corey's been our rock. Poor Corey, she had to have 1 phone in each ear, 1 for me and 1 for Melinda for a while. Yes, because we were fighting over who was going to talk to her. But it's been wonderful, and I know that you will be back on the show again, because it's so great that
I would love to be back.
Happens. I'm hoping that you and my Linda get to do a couple shows together, because you two are just too much when you bounce off of each other. I just love the interactions. So I do thank everybody for, their prayers and everything. Just keep us in the prayers for another couple weeks till Mike gets back on his feet again, and, the world turns around right for him. Things are moving. The doctors are amazed. You guys have done a great job sending the energy, because the doctors are like, wow, he's really coming through. And I'm like, yep, it's because a lot of prayers, and prayers can move mountains. We know that is proof positive. So keep the prayers coming for another couple weeks. We appreciate you. Mugs are going out. My Linda's going to give me a list. I know I have to go to the post office tomorrow and drop a couple off. So, hey, you got mugs coming. We do ask if you get that mug, just take a picture. You don't even have to show your face. Just show the picture of the mug, and we'll put it on our Facebook. Our next show, and I have my little list here. We're going to go over a little bit more on Litha, and then guess what? Their Father Day's coming up, and I'm going to give you some insights on Father's Day that you might not know about.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, because like Mother's Day, I know a little bit about what's going on there. And then we're going to have a witchy Independence Day on June 27th. We're going to talk a little bit about our independence, and we're going to bring up a little bit about pagans in the law. So you know where you stand. We're independent, but we also need a little bit of help with the law so we understand where we stand. And I thank everybody for tuning in. I hope to see everybody again next week. And Corey, thank you so much. I just can't thank you enough. I just want to like hug you.
You're just welcome.
And just say thank you.
You're welcome.
You're the bestest. All right. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.